Zelenko. And he put a statement out just talking about BlackRock and Vanguard, basically describing the cabal. This is exactly what we're actually up against, BlackRock and Vanguard. So he calls himself a conspiracy realist rather than a theorist. But BlackRock and Vanguard, they own all corporations, all media, all politicians, and they do what we call circular ownership, which means they keep investing in each other. So it just goes in a big circle. So it's a massive monopoly. All right, and all of the names that you'll see on there are the Rothschilds, the DuPont family, the Carnegie family, Orsini family, the Bush family, the Rockefellers, and the British royal family. These are the ones that actually own all of BlackRock and Vanguard. So they own everything. Okay? So the Orsini family, I don't know if you've heard of them before, they're part of the 13 families, which we'll go through in a while. And that Pepe Orsini, he's the Black Pope. He basically runs everything in the Vatican, not the one we see. All right, the Orsini family, they're the ones, basically they oversee all of the United States as well, all in the Orsini family. I just thought it was interesting, just on the way here, and he was saying that someone is in charge of everything. This has been going on for thousands of years. It's been put through here. So like everything today is a reflection of yesterday. All right, so to comprehend now, we've got to look back and see, all right, what it was like then. Okay, so we got, this is what we aim to be, man and woman. Okay, man and woman. And the reason why I have the colons there is because that's a fact. We have to make a fact that we're a man, a fact that we're a woman. All right, we've been infiltrated and manipulated into self-destruction. Okay, so I talk about this quite a lot, trying to like get people to realize what's going on when they say man and woman. You can only stand in law as a man or woman. All right, if you don't put yourself down as a man or woman, you have no law. You cannot express your law. This is why you have this agenda going on in schools and everything now. This is what this is for. If you don't stand as a man or woman, you've got nothing. You have no law. You cannot stand under the Creator. All right? Nothing to do. All right? So this is why we have to start fighting back now. Okay? Because later on, it's going to be too late. So we need to be a man or a woman in the private. Okay? So that takes you back to natural law. That's what we need to be under, natural law. Not common law. Right? The term common law is a completely different aspect. People get themselves into a lot of trouble by talking about common law over a little bit in detail, but that is case law done by judges. So it's still legislation. All right? Okay, so nothing is a coincidence. Everything is connected, absolutely everything, and it's all for a reason. All right? Good reasons and bad reasons. And the reason why you're in this is because the Creator put you here, right? So this is your purpose, to learn more, learn how to stand in power, and then pass it on to other people. The more people that we can get awake, or I don't like that word, right, aware. We don't want to be in awake, okay, unless you give me some whiskey, then I'll go, right? But apart from that, then, you know, I want to be aware. But we need to be passing this information on to as many people as possible. We need to raise the intelligence and the vibration. Right, the vibration is going to lift up, is going to help the planet move on to the next stage. We don't want to be in this mess anymore. Okay, so this is what we're here for. This mankind has been hoodwinked, okay, by outsiders, and the course of mankind has been diverted to a destination not of the choosing of the Creator. All right, we're literally speeding towards a disaster if we don't start changing it now and stand. The thing that stands at law, not in law, okay, is man and woman. So you choose to be here today to stand in your power, to stand as a man or a woman under the Creator. Okay, so now if you ever see, if you've got children that are in school, you have more idea about it. What they're doing in the schools is absolutely disgusting. All right, when they're showing these supposedly to be education programs about gender. Now, we run a PMA, Private Members Association. We run it as a faith-based ministry. So I am literally a minister of my own faith-based private members association. So that's been set up as an unincorporated association. It's got nothing to do with acts and statutes, got nothing to do with legislation. We stand as a private association, exactly the same as the bar. British Accredited Registry. Okay, exactly the same as the House of Commons. They are private members associations. So I had help setting mine up from a guy called David Edwards, who was a judge in the United States for over 30 years. He's an expert at PMAs, an expert at privacy. Now they were running a school in New York when I was talking to them via Zoom, and they were in this school in the middle of New York, and they've been there for a number of years as a private members association. With it being a school, it is a private educational association. All right? No, they've never been shut for one day. New York was shut down like insanity. It was the same as Australia and Canada, right? They didn't close one day. All of their children were in normal, right? Nobody had masks on, nobody had injections, nobody had anything like that whatsoever. The state won't go near it at all. Okay, they dropped all the kids off. All right, as normal, everything runs as normal. Okay, we were all standing there as man and woman, standing in the power. The state wouldn't go near them because they knew it was private. This is what all of this is going to be about, is being private. Now, they're in there teaching exactly what they want to teach their children, which is obviously how to be a man and a woman and standing in the Creator. So what they're trying to do by breaking that down, and you're standing there and identifying as a pink fairy or whatever it is that you want to be, an elephant with a dress on, right? It's gonna, whatever it is going to make them so they are not a man and not a woman. If they can't stand as a man or woman, it's going to be very easy to crush them, right? There will not be any resistance, and they will not be able to stand at law. They will not be able to try and do anything that we're trying to do and stand in the power, because they're not a man or woman. Okay? That is the whole point, and this is part of the agenda that's going on. So what you're seeing getting taught a lot in schools, not only that there's about hundreds of different genders, but also it's like, you've got like sex education, which is disgustingly done to children, it's sort of like, 4 or 5 year olds. Okay, it's just pure insanity, but it isn't insanity, it's on purpose. All right, everybody's at a different stage. Some people are going to be further forward than the other. You're going to understand or comprehend more than others. Right, just be a little bit patient. Okay, but remember this: we've all been lied to. Okay, or our entire life, everything is a lie. There isn't any exceptions. Okay, all right. Even what you thought was your name, you've been lied to about your name. Okay, so you're going to have to put your tin hat on, and we're going to jump down that rabbit hole. Okay. Isn't it funny the way that they try and just belittle question? Okay, then you're stupid. You're the daft one. You're going to wear your tin hat. You're a conspiracy theorist. All right, you're crazy. You're stupid. All right, but you didn't get here by accident. Okay, we didn't get into this state that we're all in by accident. It's all to do with the worship of Baal. Okay, and the 3 crowns of Baal, and their crowns are a clue. Right, so you got a guy. I've just got a picture of him studying. Literally on this pharaoh, I don't know how to say that word, Menkaure, okay, right? They've got statues found from 2532 BC. That's to their date. It's probably way, way older in reality, all right? But on there, they see the shape of the hats that they have, all right? I'm not great, I'm not an artist, okay? This is what it kind of looked like, and then there's his head. There, okay, all right, but this is the way it is, and there's the Pope's one. They call it a mitre, and if you turn it on the side, right, it looks like a fish's mouth. These are crowns of Baal. This is what they're worshipping. This is all about their devil, right? So they're getting the whole thing is satanic. Everything that they do is satanic. There isn't any decision that's made in Parliament or any other government around the world that is not about satanic, unless you want to go to Russia. It's looking nicer and nicer every day, I'm telling you. I think I've been going on for thousands of years, okay? The Egyptians, right? Now, if there's an Australian guy, I listen to him all the time, and for whatever reason, I was going to write about him, and his name just went out of my mind, and I could not think of his mind at all. All I could think of was David Aiken. I know it ain't him. And then he was trying to put this on StreamYard to do it for a video for everybody, and I couldn't get the word on my mind. What is it called? StreamYard. Everything just keeps going out of my head. But anyway, the Egyptians, right? They all of a sudden they vanished. They built these huge giant pyramids and everything like that, and then all of a sudden they're just gone, and they got no trace of them. What happened? right? I'm talking about the Egyptian royal family. Where did it all just go to? Okay, and then all of a sudden, right, the next thing that we see is like you've got a flourishing Europe with kings and queens and the Holy Roman Empire. And the Holy Roman Empire becomes the dominant force through the Vatican, right? And it covers most of Europe. And the Holy Roman Empire, we might have changed its name, but this is what you're running now. This is what you're under, all right? The Holy Roman Empire. And the name vanished around 400 AD, okay? The Holy Roman Empire. They stopped using the name about 400 AD. But then you had Pope Leo III, right, in about 800 AD, and he resurrected the Holy Roman Empire, and he crowned Charlemagne, you might have heard that name before, as the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire on 800 AD on the 25th of December, Christmas Day, all right? Now, we're still ruled by the Holy Roman Empire today, okay, and this is where the 13 blood family bloodline comes from. Some call it like the family, some call it like the tribes, but there's definitely the 13 of them, okay? And they are the merchants of Venice, the pirates. So the reason why it all comes from Venice is because they see themselves as being at sea. So they are not breaking the law of the land because they're at sea. Everything is done under maritime law. It's all done, everything's about water, okay? Everything is all about like shipping and about the maritime, because they see themselves as being at sea, the pirates. And what happens with pirates? What do they do when they leave the sea and they go on the land? They become bankers. So in the Holy Roman Empire, that covered most of Italy, Europe, and parts of Asia. Constantinople, that was the capital, right, after the Emperor Constantine, right, but it never ever took part of Venice. It didn't touch Venice whatsoever, because Venice is theirs, right? And the emblem of the empire, that is the double-headed eagle. Okay, and that's used extensively in all Masonic realms. And the eagle is used as well in a lot of USA, from the CIA right down to the moon landings. Because we did, you know, we landed on it. All right, so about that double-headed eagle, you'll see that a lot in all of their emblems, their symbology. That, and you've got also Moloch as well, that you'll hear that term quite a lot, and you'll see owls. They always use owls because that's a representation of Moloch. Okay, so the Holy Roman Empire never touched Venice, all right, because they're the real rulers of all of it, all right, and their three centers that they've been trying to establish all this time are the Vatican, which is itself as a state. It's not a city, right? It's a city-state, okay? London City, right? It's not part of the UK, it's not part of England, it's a state on its own, and Washington, D.C. Again, it's a state on its own. It is not part of the United States of America or any other term you want to use. Those three states are all individual and they're all tied together, and that's how they rule at least half of the world. And Putin rules the other half now. Okay? So the Venetians, right, they rule through the Vatican and through the popes. And a lot of them Venetian families, right, they were the popes. You'll see a lot of the names as well. But all of them, be it from their family or not, they're all controlled by the Venetians, by their 13 families. All right? So the central banks is what keeps us down, and this is who the 13 tribes or families, okay, that run all of the central banks, and it's through the central banks that everything is controlled. So you've got the Farnese family, Somaglia, Este, Conti, Chigi, Breakspear, Orsini, that's the one that I've just talked about there. They are the top family in there now. Medici, Borgia, Gaetani, Pallavicini, Borghese, and Aldo Brandini, okay? They're the 13th family. Now, there is supposed to be another one which is called the Pesos, which is supposed to be even more powerful than them. I've heard them spoken of, but I have no sort of like record of them apart from what people say. The 13 families or the tribes, a lot of the names, they can be seen in the Committee of 300. Virtually nobody speaks of the Committee of 300. All right, but all those families that you're talking about, they're just, the 13 families are just above the Committee of 300, and some of them are in it. All right, but then underneath them, right, you've got the Club of Rome. You ever heard of the Club of Rome? Okay, and they tell the Club of Rome what to do, which then tells the Bilderberger Group what to do, the WEF and the WHO. All right, it's all connected there and all run by BlackRock and Vanguard. All right, it's all tied together in one very neat relationship, and they run literally on the western side, they run everything. So the Holy Roman Empire didn't get dissolved until 1806 during the Napoleonic Wars, right? But this established the Vatican as the stronghold, the first stronghold of the Cabal under Val, and then spread west. They always wanted to go on the ley lines. That's why they wanted the City of London, and that's why they wanted Washington. It's all on ley lines. That's why they have their massive big monuments, right, sticking up in the air. Established after the Vatican was London, right, and that can be seen as important right from 55 BC. That's when Julius Caesar came over. If you imagine they're sitting in Rome, okay, and I haven't been to Rome, I've been to Italy a few times, all right, it's obviously nice and warm, good climate and everything. Why come out here? Doesn't make any sense. Why would you come here? They couldn't even see it, you know, but they knew where it was, you know, if we want to follow the line anyway, right? So he wasn't very successful, but then and the next one, Emperor Claudius, led by Senator Aulus Plautius, all right, that's when they landed and brought a large Roman army that landed at Richborough in Kent, about 43 AD. 4 legions, along with around 20,000 auxiliaries, and they defeated a huge army of Britons that were led by the Catavalonine kings, Caraticus and his brother Togodumnus. And then he died at the second battle near the Thames. All right, and that was the turning point. From the Thames, they were going up to London. They wanted London. So 4 years later, 47 AD, all right, Aulus Claudius, he founded Londinium. All right, and then that was replaced by Publius, his name. All right, he continued developing it, Londinium. So you had Boudica, the queen. She virtually destroyed it in 60 AD. Right, once they actually defeated them, they killed all of them. And then that Suetonius Paulinus, he reinforced it, and then it stayed as their capital right up until 410 AD, being the main trading point. Okay, even after the Romans left Britain, London remained the capital and the main trading point. Everything is about ley lines. I just said that. Okay, check all of the main churches, all the big churches and everything like that. The Vatican's influences it all. Okay, all comes from the Vatican, but the churches, the main ones, are all built on the ley lines, all connected. Okay, so in 800, Leo III, he re-established the Holy Roman Empire. All right, because they wanted to maintain the January 1066. The Venetians, right, they lost the bloodline in the city of London because King Edward, the confessor, all right, he was always saying prayers, so he forgot to have an heir. All right, they called him the confessor because he was always on his knees confessing, so he didn't do anything. So Harold Godwinson, he was voted, literally voted in by the Wiccan as the King of England. So they lost the bloodline. So it was nothing to do with the Venetians whatsoever on their bloodline. So Edward, he was half brother to a guy called Arthur Canute, who was King of Norway and Denmark and England until 1042, because the Danes used to rule all of England under King Canute, you know, the great King Canute. But when Harold Godwinson was voted king, right, his brother was called Tostig. Okay, he hated and was very jealous of Harold, so he joined forces with Harold Hardrada, the King of Norway. Right, so he was jealous. Tostig, I've said that. Right, and Hardrada, he was the ancestor of King Canute, father of Arthur Canute. So what they done, 20th of September 1066, Harold and Tostig, right, they landed up north and they defeated the small, hastily gathered English army at the Battle of Fulford in York. Right, the Saxon army, because it was Saxon, they say English, it wasn't English, it was Saxon. All right, it was and most of them still spoke French as well. Led by, the ones after this, they all spoke French after this. They were all led by Edwin of Mercia and Morcar of Northumbria. They suffered heavy losses to a 10,000 Viking army. Then Harold Godwinson, he marched east to East Riding in Yorkshire, and then he killed both his brother Tostig and Hardrada. That was the Battle of Stamford Bridge. That was on the 25th of September. Okay, and then Harold then marched to Pevensey after doing this, in the third battle, and that's when he met William on the 28th of September. Okay, William, he was sent over here carrying the flag and the seal of Pope Alexander II. The Pope sent him. Well, they thought that they were on a crusade because they had the Pope's flag. So that if they died, they went straight to heaven. And it actually shows you on the Bayeux Tapestry, clearly shows that Pope Alexander II's flag being carried into the battle. All right. And the strange thing is, right, they could see they'd lost the battle, and then we're going to lose the rest of what they call England. So the Saxons, right, the nobility, because the word Saxon, not English, they fled and they joined the Varangians, right, in Constantinople, which was the capital of the Byzantium Empire, right, and what it was called also the Holy Roman Empire. So they actually went and joined their enemy. They were actually getting beaten by the actual cabal, so then they went over and they started being mercenaries for the cabal. Crazy. So William I of England now, right, that's what he was, and he was a tyrant, and he destroyed the north, everything from York right up to the Scottish border, and it was known as the harrying of the north. He actually killed anything that moved, man, woman, child, who was an animal, burnt all of the properties down, just destroyed absolutely everything. But he never did anything at all in the city of London. He never harmed it at all. Right? Now, he was also crowned on Christmas Day, just like Charlemagne, right, the 25th of December. Now, in 1086 as well, William, there, he created what's called the Domesday Book. It was basically the first census for there, and what they've done is they actually listed every single item in the whole of England that was taxable. What he wanted there, so he could view all that belonged to him, so he could tax it. No mention of anything at all in the Domesday Book. You can research this yourself. Nothing mentioned about the city of London in there, and that was one of the richest places that there was. So they did not put that down at all. Okay, so you got Pope Adrian IV, who was called Nicholas Breakspear, one of the families again. Right, he announced the papal bull Lord Abilita. In 1157, that allowed King Henry II to invade Ireland. All right, and we've had nothing but trouble there ever since. You know, it's absolutely horrendous what they're doing in Ireland. Henry II, that is the guy that I was talking about before. He's the first person to ever talk about common law. And that was in 1154. Divided up under William. He gave this one that bit of land, this one that bit. Anyone that came over on the ships with him, they redivided all of England up and they got it. But then, with being that law, they set up their own laws. This is my rules, this is what you're going to do. And then him over there, he had his own. So everybody had their own set of rules. It was all different, very confusing for anybody traveling. So Henry II, he traveled the country with his own court and made the law common to all. That is the term, common law. Okay? Now, like I said, the judges, the solicitors, the barristers, they will use the term common law as case law that has been decided in the High Court, the Court of Equity, all right, Court of Appeal, all the high courts. So the judges will make a decision to precedent, and all of the judges and all of the lower courts all have to follow that precedent. It is case law, set law, and that is what you would call common law. Not when people say like, "Oh, I'm living under common law, do no harm." That's natural law. That's under the Creator's law. Common law is a completely different thing. So you've got to make sure that you don't get confused or you get into trouble, okay? All right, so the papal bulls that created the dead earth hologram. This is what we're living in. We're living in the dead earth hologram. Nothing is real, right? We've all been lied to. You know, we just simply cannot accept anything, all right? So it started off with Pope Boniface VIII. He was a Gaetani, all right? One of the families, or sometimes spelled with a G, Gaetani. He was one of the families. All right, he created the first and largest trust, the Santa Cabian Trust, 1302, called the Unum Sanctum, One Holy Church. Basically, he said that all land on earth belonged to him, all in a trust, and you weren't going to get into heaven unless you joined his church and belonged to him. That was it. So he took away all the land. All right, so he was always fighting. This is a good thing about the cabal, is that most of them hate each other as much as they hate us. So they're always trying to get one over on each other. So you had Philip the Fair, he was king of France, right? He hated this guy, Boniface, all right? So he had this William Nogaret and also Sciarra Colonna. Colonna, again, they were from the families, okay? That is like a lot of the mafia families, the Colombo family and everything come from the Colonna. So they run both sides of the coin. They all run all of the organized crime across the world, not just in Italy, but obviously in England and in America, all right? But they also run the governments as well. So that's why all these things happen. And you always wonder why, you know, these massive mafia families can exist, because they're all paid for by the same people. All right, so in 1455, you had the Roman Pontifex under Pope Nicholas V. They also did the Dum Diversas, That was another papal bull, which gave Alfonso V of Portugal permission to go and invade Africa. And that's when they started the West African slave trade. Right? So the Romanus Pontifex was the first set of KV trust, right, that deprived us of our land. And that's when they used that term, the perpetual remembrance. So to be remembered forever, we have no land. Okay? Right, the second crown of Baal, so I was talking about the crown, is called the Attorney Regis, the crown of Aragon, or the Commonwealth. All right, that was the second set of KV trust, and that took your body through the birth certificate. Okay, you were literally sold to the Holy Roman Empire. The birth certificate was sold to the Holy, it is still sold to the Holy Roman Empire. So you become a Holy Roman person, right? A person or a persona. And that means mask wearer. A persona means mask wearer. And that's what they used to call, when in the ancient Egyptian and Roman plays, and they would all have a persona because they wore a mask. Isn't that weird? So you're a slave. So what they want the slaves to do? They want you to wear masks. So they know how many people. So when they tell you, right, now we all have to wear masks now when you go to the supermarket, and they can count how many people are stupid enough to do it. So there's, oh, look, I know how. Third crown, 1537, Pope Paul III, Farnese. Another one of their families, right? That was the crown of the ecclesiastical see through the papal bull convocation. Very important one, this, okay, because this is the one that affects most of England. So they did a third set of KV trust through the baptism. So they're actually taking your soul. So that's what it was for. So you become cargo without souls. If you're a cargo without a soul, this is in their view, right? Everything that they do is all witchcraft. The words are witchcraft. Everything, all of the symbolic is all witchcraft. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. It's what they believe and what they do. Okay? So now, we are now cargo. We are things. We are not man and woman. That's what they're trying to do to you. So that is the bar, the British Accredited Registry, by treating you like that as a person, right? Not as living. You have no soul. You are just cargo. You are property. You are items. So that's how they can legally enforce this maritime law. All right. That's why you always end up getting into trouble. You don't understand it because you're not standing there as a man or a woman. If you agree to anything that they tell you, then you are a thing. You are owned property. Convocation crown, the third one, right? They awarded it, the Venetians, that they awarded it to Henry VIII. So that was in 1540. So that gave him the ecclesiastical authority for harvesting all of our souls. All right. Now he set up the first set of KV Act, and that was also what they called the Reformation of the Church. So what he did is he took all of the land in England and claimed it as his in trust. That's why he took a big chunk of it from the church. He killed all of the priests. Nothing wrong with that. All right. But then he took all of the church, took all of the wealth, and he took it all for himself. All right. And he did it with a guy called Thomas Cromwell. Right, not Oliver Cromwell, not the guy who wore a funny hat and then went and started killing everybody to become parliamentarian, but Thomas Cromwell, all right, so that he helped him close down all of the churches. He was a guy that went in head of it and closed it all, arranged everyone to get killed. But what they were doing, they were taking all of the land, everything. So it was all put into trusts. The whole world that we live in now is all in trusts, as we have to remember. That's why we want to have trusts, but they've already set up in trusts. So if you go and look at your land registry now, and you think even if you paid your mortgage off in there, you'll still be on that land registry, on the deed, as a tenant. Right? You paid for your mortgage, you think you bought your house, you're a tenant. Because it's in a trust. So if it's in a trust, you don't own it. You own the bricks and mortar because you paid for them. But you'll have a problem taking them away anywhere. Right? You don't own the land because it's all in a trust and you're down as a tenant. Alright? So, but you still, you know, the thing is, what we always do is put it into a trust. Put it in, create your own private trust and put that into a trust. And you can also, something I'm only investigating now, so I can't tell you how to do it yet, get a land patent. That will give you a allodial title to the land by getting through a land patent. Okay? but I've just started studying with this guy who's going to help me sort it out. I've never been able to find the Lodial title until this guy started talking about it, and he's done it successfully all over the US, as well as England, Australia, and Europe. Okay, so you know, if we can actually get the land patent on there, you can get the patent, put in your name, it'll give you a Lodial title to the land as well. So keep your eyes open for that one. I will be passing that information out as soon as I get it. So Thomas Cromwell, he was actually working very well for Henry VIII, right up until he actually arranged the marriage of Anne of Cleves, right? And then Henry cut his head off because she was so ugly, apparently. But he did cut his head off as soon as he was given to Henry VIII, right? That was held by the English royal family from 1540 when he got it, right the way through up into 1816. In 1816, the Venetians again, they awarded it to the City of London. It was then called like the Convocation Crown Corporation. Right, that's a bit of a long mouthful. That is the Crown Corporation. Right, so now when you have a seat on your birth certificate and it says copyright the Crown, it's not the Queen, it's the Crown Corporation. Anything that said it's owned by the Crown, it's owned by the Crown Corporation, which is an unincorporated association, like a PMA. What I was talking about, the Crown Corporation. It's not a limited company, right? It's a unincorporated association because it's private. All right. So now the power, right, that was given to Henry VIII, right, is now to reap all of our souls. It now belongs to the Crown Corporation. The Crown Corporation, right, is owned. Well, it's not owned by the Vatican. It's the same as the Crown Corporation, which is run from the City of London, which is run from the Temple Bar, the actual Temple Bar, where all of the inns, you know, where you pass the bar, you become part of the inns, one of their inns. They've all got a different name. I think that they all used to be schools of law. Now, in the middle of it is the Temple Bar, which is the chapel, the church. That there was established by the Knights Templar. It's the only bit of England, the only bit of land in the whole world that does not pay homage to the Vatican. Everything else pays homage to the Vatican. All land is underneath the Vatican, apart from that one piece. All right. The second crown that was taken from the Venetians. It was given to King James I of England, who was like the 6th of Scotland when they joined the actual union of the crowns, or their union of the crowns. And he did that. That was under the false flag of the Gunpowder Plot in 1605. Okay. So and then the next false flag that they did was the Great Fire in London, 1666. Okay. Always got sixes in these things, isn't it? So what they did is what they, you know for a fact, this was a great Babylonian sacrifice. They burned down the whole city, all right, the whole city of London. Oh, well, where all poor people lived anyway, right? And they blamed it on this guy called Thomas Fainall, who was supposed to be like the baker in Pudding Lane. But what they done there, they actually set up in 1666, while they were trying to put the fire out, that was when they set up the Settlement Act, 1666. Under the Settlement Act 1666, all persons are declared dead after 7 years. So if you didn't come forward and declare yourself alive after 7 years, they took the wealth, they took all of the land, and there was no will, so it wasn't allowed to be passed on to any sons or daughters. They took everything. Under the Settlement Act 1666, all classed as persons, all classed as dead, lost at sea. All right, this is still in force today. You can Google that, you can search that, the Settlement Act 1666. So everyone is still declared dead at sea. This is what we're going to go against. This is what we are going to argue against and rebut. All right, so I know some people have done the paperwork. We're going to go over a little bit of the paperwork. What we have to do is we have to rebut. It says there, like, unless you go forward and tell you're alive, then you are agreeing through tacit consent that you are dead. A legal fiction, which is a dead entity. Everything is a fiction. So when you get your birth certificate created, it's a piece of paper. You become a 2D entity, a piece of paper, right? You go under that capitalized name. You are now an implied corporation. So that's why they treat you as a thing. You are not living, okay? So we've got it's Settlement Act 1666. Go and check it out, gov.uk. It's still on there, all right? and now you're still taking your land because you're still down as a tenant. That's why we're going to find out how to get the land paid, and they're taking your body and soul, classing you as dead. So if you check the land registry, you'll see that you're on there as a tenant. All right, your birth certificate. All right, what they do on the DVLA, you know, you don't own your car, don't you? All right, on the DVLA, it actually states on your bit of paper you get, this is not proof of ownership. You're just a registered keeper, and you have the benefit of the use of it. Because you have the use of it, you have to pay the tax. Mad, isn't it? All right, have a look at your passport when you go home. Your passport's going to have a P on it. It'll say type, and then the type it'll have P. All right, because you're poor. Okay, so in 1697 you had the Poor Apprentices Act. So when they become apprentices, and all these people that are apprentices, they were sex slaves. They weren't like learning how to do a job. Okay, so and they had to wear, when they were like under the 1697 Poor Act apprentices, you had to wear a P on your shoulder. The letter P had to be on the shoulder of your clothing. All right, very similar like what they're doing like in the Second World War. They're making them wear the stars. They were making them in England to wear a P on their arm, but you've got it. It's on your passport, and it says type P. Okay, so there's only 3 types of passport, and unless you're a diplomat or that you were an aristocrat, right, then you are a peasant. So we're all peasants with a P on our passports. Go to our status, right? Under the Certificate Act 1666, we declare ourselves alive. And what we're going to do this through an affidavit called the Lawful Notice and Demand, the LND. That's on my website. So you can download that. It's all free. You can download that and then you edit it. Now, what you have to be careful of now is that it's all changing who we've got to write them to. All right, but now this is a very important document. I was speaking to a lady on Thursday, I think it was, in Australia, and she's showing everyone how to do this in Australia because they're still part of the Commonwealth, so they still come under the Certificate Act 1666. So they took 5 hours just to read it and dissect it. Now it is over 20 pages long, right, and it has to be accompanied by the security agreement and a power of attorney. That's what we have to get. It's on the website. So if you go on the website, and you can see, just click it, download it, downloads there, and it's got in red, where you have to put your details in, or you have to put the details in of who's going to send it to. And we send it to what we call a Sinister 7. Affidavit. Right? So the affidavit, it's an affidavit for life. So the power of attorney, that is giving you, the living man or woman, the attorney of power over the dead fiction. Okay? So what that means is, the man, Fred Smith, written like that, okay, go along with the man because it's a fact. Being alive has the power of attorney over Fred Smith in capitals, all right, capital maximus, okay, where we're doing capitis minimus on there, okay. So the legal fiction, all right, that's a commercial entity which was created by the government at birth on there. So that's what we're taking power of. So what that means is that power of attorney, it's saying that me being the living, like I'm now in control of that name you gave me, that limited company name. It's not to be confused with the power of attorney from the office of the public guardian. You've got to do that as well. That's really, really important. So this is when we're going to go, right? In there, I want nothing to do with legal fiction. Yeah, because you're going to have to go and live in a tree, all right, and eat grass. That's going to be it. Right? You have to be able to dip in and out of the public and private to do that. So when we're doing that power of attorney, it's accompanying the LND, the Lawful Notice of Demand, the power of attorney to control, claim our strawman. That's what you're doing. And the security agreement ties in with the private trust because it's putting all your personal possessions into trust. All right? So that's what it's doing. It all ties together. So it's not that complicated. So it sounds complicated, but it's not, right? So the security agreement, that's tied to the private trust, right? That's created to protect all of your assets from the corporate thieves. Okay, so the process, what we have to do, you're going to create the LND, the Lawful Notice of Demand, plus the security agreement, plus the power of attorney. And then you're going to send the first LND, doesn't matter about them, you're going to send the first LND to yourself. Okay, so you're sending the first one to yourself. It's about 20 odd pages long. So what you have to do is, once you've edited it, right? Who knows? Have they done anything about the Prime Minister yet? They got rid of him. So, like, whoever's going to come new, that's who they give the first one to, right? So you don't address it to you, you don't put it to you, you just use the one to say either the Queen or the Prime Minister, whichever one, all right? So what you do is you make it up to, say for instance, the Queen. So you're going to do it to there, and you put all her address in and everything like that, all right? And as soon as it comes to the back page, you're going to do what they call an autograph, not a signature. A signature is for contracts that you are joining. An autograph is for things that you create, and this is your lawful notice of demand. You're creating it, just like you would sign a painting or a poem or anything like that. You're autographing your L&D. So you autograph the L&D. That means that you will autograph it, okay, with the colon, all right, and lowercase, all right. And what you can do is you can put a semicolon on the end to finish it. Okay, so when we've written on the L&D, on the notice, you'll see it's written out like an affidavit style. On an affidavit style, it means that you are putting points across. So you're actually telling them you are not dead. You are telling them you are alive. You are telling them you are not a corporation. You tell them that you fully comprehend that they are a limited company. Because all of the associations that you see, be the DVLA, be the Land Registry, be the government, be the Bank of England, it's not English, they are all private, limited companies for profit. All the courts, all the police stations, everything. All right, Northumberland Police Force, when I went there, you go on Duns and Bradstreet, do it for your own area. So we Googled that, researched it, go on Duns and Bradstreet, and a lot of them now, what we're finding out, especially the bigger companies in the UK, limited, they're actually putting themselves on Duns and Bradstreet, US, not UK. So it's harder to find. But we did it for the Northumbria Police. Had the head office, got the head office address, got the shareholders, got the directors, and their turnover. Right? This was in 2019. 1.6 million in sales, using that word, in sales, in the police force. Right? It must have went way up 2020 when all these ridiculous pretend fines went in. Okay, so when we do the first L&D, you're going to send it to yourself with postal mechanics. What are the postal mechanics? So what we do is you can actually get a 1p stamp or a £1 stamp. It has to be a unit. So obviously it's cheaper if you can get a 1p stamp. If you go to your post office, like post office workers, like, I don't know, some of them are like dead easy, other ones just like point blank refuse to answer any questions or do anything. You can get it at Viking.com, a big book of 1p stamps. Go to Viking.com, right? It's cheaper to get it, as long as it's a unit. So what you do is once you've actually completed the document, you've edited out the details of Fred Smith, because your name is not Fred Smith, well, not many of you. All right, put your name in, then you made it out to the Queen with her address. There's about 4 or 5 different places that you have to do it, but it's all in red. All right, yes, because it's highlighted in red, you'll see, and then you change it all to blue writing, blue ink. Okay, so on the front, the first page on the postal mechanics, what you're going to do is you're going to put the stamp in the top right-hand corner. Then you're going to go to the post office and you're going to ask them to stamp it. You need to get the stamp on it. You need to get the jurisdiction on it. Right, on the L&D, you go to the post office and get them. All they're doing is put a date on. And if they ask anything funny, just say, look, last time I sent the document off, someone stole the stamp on it. I don't want them to steal the stamp. So if you put your stamp on it, it's going to make it worthless to anyone else and they're not going to steal it. All right? Most of the time you go to, like, I've been refused, go to the next post office. No, on the document. Top right-hand corner of the document, then you get them to stamp it. Wait until they've stamped it, then you go home. Right, when you go home, then you're going to autograph on the stamp in blue ink. We used to do it in red, there's no problem, but this year we were in a court case and it's like we had red thumbprints on and red ink on, and this barrister just went on for literally about 40 minutes about the biohazard, and you think this is blood and blood. Yeah, honestly. And I was like sitting bored stiff, I felt like saying, look, can you just short and get on with the fun? Like, so now just make it blue thumbprint. Right, and blue ink. So sign your name, right? You can either do it straight across or you can do it down like you're slashing your sword down from the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner of the stamp. So make sure, right, if that's the stamp, start with the first letter there, right in through it, and then with the first letter, so it's touching the paper, like that. Right, so if you do it like that, and then get your thumbprint glue and put it on that side. Okay?
It's left or right.
Well, you can do it either, but it's like the as long as you start with it like off, even if you did it that way, right? As long as you start with it being off there and make sure it's off there. Okay? So like, and then the thumbprint on. Make sure the thumbprint's half on, half off. Either way, you're going to get arguments. Some people say that way, some people, it doesn't matter, right? As long as it's off the stamp and you can see it on either side, right? Yeah, okay. And then once you've done that, flip it over and go on to the last page and either put it at the top or in the middle. And you do the same with the stamp, at the top or in the middle, so it's the end, okay? So you do exactly the same and put your thumbprint on the end of it. Okay, on the last page. Alright? So that's what we call the poster mechanics. Then what you're going to do is you're going to post it to yourself. Well, I just put one in the middle. That was clever. Some people do two, but you know, I'll put one on the first page and then one on the last page. All it is, it shows there that you can't write anything else after it. So it's the end. So like, you know, people can't go and add anything else written on. That's why you do it. So that's why I say that, yeah, either put it in the middle or put it like at the top. Just because then there's nothing can be written after that. It's the end of the contract. Okay? So then what you're going to do, you send it to yourself. Once you send it to yourself, you receive it. You have to sign for it, obviously. Okay, so what you have is you have proof of postage and you have proof of receipt. You get the time and the date that it was sent, the time and the date, and you print it off. The way I do it, right, is I just actually go on boilmail.com and I buy it before I send it. So you can get the tracking number. Then I do this with all the debt letters for people as well. So you get the tracking number, what time it was sent off, and then what time it was arrived. And then you print it off and you keep it all safe with your document. As soon as you've got it, you've now created that document. Right, it's got the power of the Universal Postal Union, and then you can post it off to the other 7. Okay, so that is the LND. So there's only one LND on the website. You download the one, and then you edit it to all 7. Right, so put the Queen's one in, and then once you've got the Queen one, you've got to do it again for, you know, whoever's going to be. It's not the Prime Minister you're writing to; it's the Lord of the Treasury. Right, and then it's all the other one. I've got them actually on here. Okay, and then there's only one security agreement, and there's only one power of attorney.
For Ireland?
On Ireland, if you go on the website, it's actually got the list of all of the Republic Islands as well. In Scotland, you've got about 3 or 4 extra ones on as well. Use the term, especially now, very important, proper officer incumbent. Okay, because usually, right, things happen so like slowly. One person will fall out and get disappear. Now they're all going to kind of change, aren't they? So what you're going to do is you put Her Majesty the Queen, Elizabeth II, or proper officer incumbent, just in case the admixture's dead. Okay? Right, so you mark it still out for her, but put proper officer incumbent in case they come out with it. Now you have to keep track of it because a lot of times they don't sign or they throw it in the bin. So you've got to make sure that the sign for it has been received. And then also Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury. I doubt very much he's going to change. And then the Prime Minister, which is acting as First Lord of the Treasury. That's who we're writing to, whoever that is going to be. The Attorney General, there's a good chance they're going to change her as well. First Secretary of State, good chance they're going to change her as well. So that you always just put whatever it is, whatever name we find out, proper officer incumbent. Okay? Well, I send mine by first class sign for. If you send it first class sign for, then you get the tracking number first. You get the tracking number, and you can keep it written out the tracking number, and then you know you can actually get it straight away. Some people do a recorded delivery, but I can do it all online. by getting first class recorded. First class signed for. It'll actually be written out, what's her name? Elizabeth Mary something, Windsor, acting as, or doing business as, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. That's the title. That's not a name. We write a name out, acting as Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. So, like, if it was Boris Johnson's Prime Minister, you see, like, it goes down as, like, you know, Alexander Boris de Pfeffel, acting as, and then in capitals. All right, so you're showing them both. Okay? All right, so the First Secretary, then you've got Ian Duncan Burnett. He's the Lord Chief Justice, probably won't change. All right, then you've got Mark Rowley, he's the Police Commissioner. Okay, that's the 7. That's the 7. Yeah?
Peter, is this on your website?
So all on the website, everything. claimstrawman.com. We have got to give them 40 days and 40 nights at law to rebut. This is an affidavit style. You're making points for them to argue or rebut. You're telling them you're alive, you're not a corporation. You have to give them 40 days and 40 nights, the same time that the Creator's Son was in the desert, to rebut it. Okay? Now, what happens is, you're not going to get a rebut. They're not going to write to you and say, what are you talking about? You are dead. Okay? So then after 40 days and 40 nights, you're going to send the second affidavit. An affidavit of acceptance. Again, it's on the website. Everything's on the website. It's all free. You can download it. So after 40 days and 40 nights, you send the second affidavit. It's much smaller. It's only a couple of pages. You don't send anything else, just 2 or 3 pages it is. And it's basically saying, I'm going to thank you for not arguing. Thank you for not rebutting it. All right. We're going to give you another 40 days and 40 nights in case you forgot who it was. All right. An unrebutted affidavit stands as fact and true in law. But you have to do 2. You have to do the first one, which is the LND. It's an affidavit. You give them the 40 days and 40 nights to argue it. Don't argue. They don't rebut it. So you send them a second one to confirm. You can do this for any debt or any thing that you're doing at all. It has to be 2, at least 2. All right. And then it's an unrebutted affidavit. It stands as fact and true in law. So then what we're doing is, okay, after the second time, 40 days and 40 nights, right, we're sending the second affidavit. You now have tacit consent. You have their tacit consent agreeing that your affidavit is fact and true. True. We always use the word true, not truth. Words are true. The truth is an opinion. Okay? Right? But you've got it now. They accept that we are alive and not a legal fiction, not a person, but we are a man and woman, in fact. So tacit consent, everything